up next, for this topic, we are going to switch over to a fireside chat. This will be on regulations and ethics in digital marketing. For this chat, we have Dr. Joscelyn Ramos Campbell, founder and president of Mami Innovative Media, and also Mr. Steve Weiss, better known as Steve the Hurricane. Now, they're going to share their exceptional insights on the topic and take us through an immersive discussion on the day. Thank you, guys. The stage is for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So here, I'm gonna just move this over here. All right. Fireside chat.
What's up?
Check it out.
Look at the nice fire we got going here, too.
I know, it's nice and warm.
Nice?
This is
Toasty.
wonderful. Toasty and wonderful. I'm just so glad that I had a chance to break bread with you and just chit chat and stuff.
That's
and
awesome.
So, you know, the topic is on ethics in marketing.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about ethics in marketing for a little bit, all right? And then we'll switch to also talking about reaching the people who have the resources, the wealth in the world, right?
Yeah.
Because if we're all in marketing, we're trying to sell something, and when you're trying to sell something, you got to be able to reach the people who have the resources, right? So these are things we're going to discuss. But, you know, real quick, why don't you give us a little bit of your background, talk a little bit about some of the things that you've done, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, absolutely. So some of you already may have heard this, so be prepared to be razzle-dazzled again. But my name is Dr. Joscelyn Ramos Campbell. So my background has been in marketing and has been in television and radio. So I first started out in PR and working in the Obama and Bush administration and public relations. And then I went into my own media company, and I've been working in PR, marketing and communications for brands and being a representative. And so I've been in both places. I've been doing the digital marketing as an influencer, and I've been working as a PR person for brands and for myself. So I have made those decisions of whether to hire an influencer or I've been an influencer myself. And I also represent disability as an advocate for special needs and for those that need representation in the market for Latinos as well.
I love it. I can't wait till we start getting onto that as well, too. So, and just real quick, everybody, I'm Steve Weiss is my real name. My professional trademark name is Steve the Hurricane. I am an influencer. My background is all things sales and marketing. I actually had my own little landscaping company when I was 14 years old. That's how I first got started with promoting that, neighborhood kids. And then I went through selling knives. I sold cars. I sold basement waterproofing. And then I found my niche when I got to the healthcare scene. And I started being able to take care of elderly, started taking care of patients. I grew a very small company into becoming a large regional provider. In 2009, the owner of that company made me his business partner. And then in 2011, we flipped and sold that company for several $1 million. And then in 2012, that's when I started Hurricane Marketing Enterprises. And I've been an influencer in pretty much, I want to say the marketing space, but really focused on healthcare for many years until this Hurricane brand, which I'll talk about branding later on, has really started to take off and take things into a whole other different level. And so with the background in marketing for healthcare, you know, we're talking about taking care of elderly, we're talking about taking care of disabled, we're talking about taking care of the vulnerable population, and kind of piggybacking that into our conversation here. You know, when you're taking care of a vulnerable population, as marketing, there is a certain responsibility that we have to uphold to. You know, we can't say we're the best if we don't have the statistics to back it up. We have to make sure that if we say we're going to deliver something, we actually deliver on it. You know, I think about many times when I had my home care business, I was taking care of patients. And when somebody is signing a contract for us to send a caregiver into that house, you know, we are committing that we're going to provide that service. Now, if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and that patient falls out of bed and someone in that organization, that caregiver calls our organization, so we have to answer that phone. We have to continue to do that. Otherwise, the marketing effort is completely shot because we didn't deliver what we said we would. And no matter how great of a marketer you are, you're not going to get the business because in this instance, this exact example, you're literally hurting people, right? So, you know, I guess I'll ask you this question, you know, I love that you served with Obama, that's amazing. from the ethical standpoint of things, you know, we want to make the money. We want to get the publicity. We want to get people to come to our services and buy our products and stuff. But what are some ethical situations that maybe you have seen, or what would you recommend to somebody who has to do that and make sure that they're going to deliver on it operationally?
You know, one of the things, speaking on that personal as well, I took care of my parents for 10 years and they recently passed away. And so I will say that,
Sorry.
Thank you. And I will say that those are situations that comes up frequently, is that the home care attendant, you know, having that home care attendant that comes in and says, oh, I'm going to take care of your parents, and that, you know how many times you've walked in and you've seen that and you're like, you didn't do that right, or you know, you're not delivering on your end. It's that customer service, you know, or doing those surprise visits and you realize, oh, this agency is not complying with what they said they were going to do, you know, and then you have to be the one to make that call and be like, I just walked in, I didn't see A, B, C, B done, you know, and stuff. Then you have to then take the second step to then call that agency and say, I'm going to have to call you out. And I'm the one who has to tweet it out or Facebook it and email it and bring it up to the chain of command and say, this is what's happening, you know? It's the same thing that happens with companies. You know, we've seen public companies have epic failures online, you know? Why? Because they didn't deliver, they didn't promise. And nowadays in the social media and digital world, you can't mess up like that, because you have literally thousands upon millions of consumers and audience who are going to call you out on one thing that you did wrong, you know? Anytime that something happens, you have got people, look at the airline industry, JetBlue, you know, you've got anybody that will just be in the airport, like, JetBlue, your customer service, I'm standing in line, this and this happened, taking a photo, doing the viral tweets, you know, doing that. Now there has to be full transparency at all times. All times, everything that's happening, you have to know that your client will call you out. You can have the best relationship with your client, but the moment that you mess up, you better believe they're gonna be on that cell phone, taking a video, taking a picture, and gonna be like, excuse me, this and that. Because that's the era we live in right now. We're in digital marketing era, and it's full transparency. Everything has to be done above bar. So you've got to be able to understand that. So when you are doing something with your client, even if you've been in business with them, oh no, but me and Jeff, we know we've been there 10 years together rocking it. That's great. The moment you mess up, even if you have, oh no, they're gonna call me or whatever. Listen, if Jeff, you're a subcontractor to Jeff, and hey, Jeff's client's upset and upset something, you better believe they're gonna be on that social media tearing you up.
Now, everything that you just said there, Joscelyn, is phenomenal. And it's so true. Like, we've all heard the saying, because we're all marketers, we've all heard the saying before that there's no better marketing than word of mouth. Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of people don't realize that people are 10 times more likely to talk about a bad experience than they are about a good experience. Yep. Just the other day, my brother and I, we were having lunch or dinner last night. Remember that, Scott? And we were having dinner last night, and national hockey team, the Philadelphia Flyers, mm-hmm. right? Their media person in the background, one of the players was talking to the media, and the media was asking a question. One of their marketing people backstage said, how many times are you going to ask the same effing questions? And the whole audience heard it, and this was recorded on TV. Right. And so then they had to go into, because we're talking ethics and dilemmas, right? They had to go into damage control. Right. The Philadelphia Flyers had to make a public statement apologizing for what that person did. That person probably got fired, ruined their career, mm-hmm. and everything else, all because of an error. And it's spread like wildfire. Right. Nobody even remembers what the press conference was about. Right. Everybody remembers that this person had dropped an F-bomb to mm-hmm. the audience there. Mm-hmm. And so there is, and this is, again, this is actually very relative. Right. Because it is an ethical, like, if you're up in that press conference, if you are promoting something, if you're advertising, going back to your parents' situation, you're walking in there, that company that advertised that we're gonna have the caregiver to take care of your parents, they're gonna clean the house, they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that. You walk in the house, that's not being done. Right. Now all of a sudden, that becomes, it's an operational nightmare for the business, but it also becomes a PR nightmare. Yep. Mm-hmm. And you're not delivering on your promises there. what is, I guess maybe let's stay on this topic for a second here. So if we're working with a company that has those operational challenges where they're not delivering, right? Because everybody in this room is a marketer or a salesperson. Sometimes you may be working for a company that doesn't have the product or they're not delivering on what they say they're going to do, but we have to market it still. Like it's our responsibility. We're the marketing department. So, you know, have you ever been in that situation?
Yeah.
And if you have, what advice would you give to that marketing firm or to that marketing individual representing a company that doesn't deliver on what they're supposed to?
So I've had situations where we have products that we have sent out in an influencer campaign, and the influencers are testing out the products, and the products have either broken or they are supposed to do like reviews on them and videos, and the product has broken on them, or the products has not worked, and now they've coming back to me and they're like, okay, I was doing the video and here's the broken product. Now what do I do? So now I go back to the company. I'm like, listen, we're not going to fake it and say like this is great when it's not, because now that's, first of all, we're not going to ask the influencers to lie about it, because they have an audience that they're supposed to be ethically responsible to. So we want you to fix this and say, what are we going to do best about it? Are you going to send them, one, a new product, or two, even better, how about we tell them, listen, this product broke on the first time, but here's how we're gonna make it better. This is real life. What happens if you send this out, because you've already sent out 10,000 units, this is a real possibility this could happen to them. How are we gonna fix it? What are the solutions that we're gonna come out to? How are we gonna be ethically responsible to this? So those kind of challenges have occurred. And to be honest, we've had companies that have just said, you know what, let's scrap this whole thing. That was on them. That was they took the A on that. They just kind of took the L on that, and they were like, all right, we're not gonna move forward until we kind of go back to research and develop and see what we can do. And there's been other companies who have been really forthright and say, you know what, put that in there and say, listen, the first time we sent it out, they did break. It really did break, but here's a solution we came up to, and here's how we made it better. And it actually caused the respect for the consumers, because they said, hey, look, this product broke, but this is what they did to make it better. And it actually really worked for the customer, because they saw, wow, the company really cared about it, because when it broke, this is the solution they come up with. They didn't false advertise with us, okay, and made it seem like, all right, well, this was really working and it really didn't. No, they actually came out and said, you know what, when we fall, instead of giving it to your kids and it broke and we just didn't want to tell you, no, it did break and here's how we fixed it. And they actually got customers for life for that.
I love it. And it's the transparency, as you said, and the authenticity, owning your mistakes, right? Deliver on your promises, up to your mistakes. Another example I remember as you were speaking that came to mind, where maybe you're representing a company that's not the best, right? And so I remember everybody knows the old Verizon commercials with the "Can you hear me now?"
Can you hear me now?
Good. Can you hear me now? Good. And the guy's walking around. Well, I remember after Verizon moved on from that spokesperson then got hired by Sprint. And when he got hired by Sprint, Sprint had a reputation for not being one of the better companies. And so they literally went out, and this is the I was so impressed by the marketing company, because it's like, you're given a company that's not the best, and so since we know you're not the best, let's run with that. And they said, Sprint, we're not number one, but we're going to give you a better rate than everybody else. And so we have, instead of 99% coverage, we have like 92% coverage. And 92% is good, and so we're going to give you 92% coverage, but it's going to cost you less than if you went with Verizon and paid top dollar for just 7% better coverage. And it ended up making them a lot of money. I think Sprint eventually sold and merged with somebody else. But I remember seeing those commercials and I'm like, wow, like what a great idea. So if you, that's the tip of advice I would throw out there. If you're representing a company that's not the best, go to your strengths. We might be a little bit less price. You may have to deal with a little bit of issue, a drop call or something, but we can handle that. From the healthcare perspective, I actually remember when I had my company, and before I became the owner of it, I was the marketing director. I was working very closely with operations. So from my perspective, I was doing direct referral marketing. Think about it from this perspective, folks. If you go to see your doctor, and your doctor says you have a specific diagnosis, and then you're like, well, who do I go see about this diagnosis? They make a referral to you, right? Part of the reason why they make the referral is because somebody marketed a company to them, they developed a relationship where they trust that particular provider to do X, Y, and Z. That's how it's done in the healthcare continuum. So what I would do if I'm representing a company, instead of me going out and promising the stars and the moon and the sun and the solar system and everything else, I sat down with the operations team. I said, what are the things that we can handle best? What kind of clients are we taking care of? Who are our target customers? Once I understood what we do best, then I said, I'm going to go market and find that customer. I don't want every single customer. This is something that a lot of people consider the abundance, because a lot of people think that, oh, well, there's only so many people out there and we got to capture everything. No. There is more business to be gained than we could ever possibly imagine. There is more money out there for all of us to be able to tap into, and none of us will ever get all of it. So I would much rather put my best foot forward, say from the home care space, right? Instead of me going after all the elderly, I'm going to just see that we do really good taking care of orthopedic patients. So I'm going to just go after the orthopedic market because we can handle it and deliver on it, and we're the best at that. So that's just something they're ethical. Does anybody have any questions from the audience? If you have any questions, please feel free to ask the questions. We'd love to answer your questions. We're gonna start to shift our topic a little bit here to something that we are very passionate about. But if you have any questions, please feel free to ask the questions because we're here for you. So let's shift our topic a little bit. We're talking about economics, all right? An article just came out, I don't have my phone on me, from Forbes magazine, but the article that came out from Forbes magazine talked about the wealth by generations. And we're talking about like $7,500 plus trillion of wealth by generation. The largest demographic by age is the baby boom. The baby boom generation in the United States controls almost 50% of all the wealth that exists out there. The generation coming up, they're like 10%, the millennials are like 17%, Gen X, they're like 20%, but baby boomers are almost 50%, which means that if I own a company, if I'm marketing and sales, if I'm trying to get customers, who's got the money? It's that baby boom generation. So talking to, and I want to hear about with the Latinas as well, because again, now we're bringing it down to further segments. But let's just stay on the baby boomers for a second.
Absolutely.
What are some things that you have seen towards reaching that generation? Because they're the ones that have the dollars and cents.
So with the baby boomers, especially for me when I was dealing with my parents, a lot of it was, especially in Florida, a lot of it is targeting them, and it's their way that they are using the language for them. It's the marketing that is coming towards them in the household. It's always putting them in the retirement space. So a lot of it has been like easy living. It is like retirement living. It is no kids, 55 and over. They're always pushing that for them. And they're putting it, that I will say that they do it in dual languages and multiple languages. Because if you're in Florida, if you are in Arizona, which is the two top retirement communities, which is Arizona and Florida, they are always putting that into the easy living, community living, sunrise, they use those words, sunrise living. They want to make them feel like everything is easy, everything is beautiful, always have them riding the golf carts, grandkids are going to be coming to visit. They don't never talk about like if your kids are ever going to go back home because they don't want them to think about that, so like if your kids are going to move back in with you and stuff. They didn't think about the pandemic that might happen because nobody wanted to think about that, and no one ever knew that the pandemic was going to happen, and that could be a real possibility. And for the marketing aspect, that's what they were always putting in. Everything was always just like really beautiful, easy living. And the thing about the ethics of that is that they never put in there like things that could be a real possibility for them, meaning that what happens if they were not able to have their own home? What happens if maybe their kids did have to move in with them? What happens if they were living with their kids? They always sold these beautiful brochures that always seemed that mom and dad could live out on their own. And the baby boomers do have a lot of wealth, but sometimes it was not liquid.
Right.
Okay? Maybe it was already in properties.
Equity in the home.
Yeah.
Which
Equity in the
everybody
home.
knows about the housing boom all around the country.
Yeah. So the way they were always doing these beautiful marketing brochures, it sold mom and dad on all of these mom and dad and grandparents on a kind of a falsehood of what it looked like, this advertising, this beautiful retirement, and it made them feel like, oh, if I just got to Florida, if I just got to Arizona, if I just got to California, this is what I was going to look like, you know? And there's a sandwich, there is a CNN, and this is very true for many Americans, the sandwich is called the sandwich generation, the gap. You know what that is?
Adult children.
Yeah, adult
So they
children.
have mom and dad,
Yeah.
and their mom and dad needs help, and then I'm a parent or a grandparent myself.
Right.
And I got to take care of my kids or grandkids and mom, and it's like
that-
I'm the sandwich. That's the baby boomers.
That's the baby boomers. So now we have this in America where everybody, multi-generational home is now, they're all living in one home, you know? The mom, the grandparents, the adults who are living there, their kids, and then their great-grandchildren or grandchildren all living in one home, because you know what? We're not living in this utopia of retirement, you know, the way that they have marketed this, because mom and dad do need help. And so the kids have to step in and help mom and dad. And the kids still are raising their own children, so everybody's living in this home. So this whole entire beautiful utopia of retirement, that's not ethically true, you know? So it's like almost false advertisement.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and to that point, it's interesting because now you're starting to see, because marketers and stuff, and again, appealing to this demographic, right? You're starting to see that they're realizing that there's a lot of people who are in this generation that we're talking about, the baby boomers, who are not able to retire.
Right.
They don't have the resources.
Right.
And so a lot of them are still working. A lot of them are still active.
Yeah.
And so you're starting to see, like, I remember before he had passed away, Alex Trebek, and he used to
Right.
sell the life insurance,
Yep.
right? And then you remember, who is it? Sally Field. She's always selling different drugs, or she's always selling, and not, you know, not the drugs, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
She's
No,
selling,
she's
like,
not on the block, you know what I'm saying? We're not saying that, okay? Like, chill.
but they bring in the spokespeople,
Right.
and they're bringing them in around being able to talk about continuing to work past retirement age,
Yeah.
and for the active adult,
Right.
and the person who's still on the go. I saw Cedric the Entertainer
Yes.
do an ad.
Right.
I saw Terry Bradshaw did an ad for shingles. Get your shingles vaccine, right?
Right.
These are the ads that are out there, and they're appealing to the people of this demographic because that, again, that's who has the resources.
Right.
So when I think from a marketing standpoint, if I'm representing a company, if I'm representing a firm, if I'm representing someone who's trying to grow an organization, I have to make sure that I'm doing things to reach this demographic, because those are the people who are our largest consumers. Now, along that, and this is where I'm so excited for you, because you did this great presentation earlier. So when I had mentioned during another session that you were on about the baby boomers, and then you talked about specifically the Latina community.
Yeah.
So we were talking about how they are the decision makers, they're the purchasers. They cross all of, not just baby boomers, but they're all generations, but they make up a certain percentage of the United States. Can you share some insights into that first?
Right.
And then after you share the statistics and the numbers, let's talk about how do we reach the Latinas? Because if they're the decision makers and they represent a huge portion, 1 in 4, I believe you said,
Right.
was the population.
Yeah.
How do we tap into reaching them? What are the things that they're looking for ethically?
Yes. So right now in the US, 1 in every 4 Americans are Hispanic. The shopping buying power in the US is $2.3 trillion.
Brilliant.
$1 trillion is the buying power of the Hispanic Americans in the US. And 58% of Hispanics in the US are under the age of 34.
Wow.
So for a marketer, that's like, gimme, 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 you know, for a marketer right now. So, and when you think about it, Hispanics have been overlooked. When you think about even right now, when you think about the commercials that you see on TV, we have finally just got around to having appropriate representation of African Americans in our commercials, in our television, in our printed ads, and that is still even not enough for what we
Right.
see. So can you imagine where we're at with Hispanics? We're like this much, you know? And so Hispanics are not represented, and yet we are the largest right now, the largest minority in the U.S. And that's going to grow even more now. 'Cause we're
Growing
the
leaps and bounds.
Leaps and bounds. So with all of that purchasing power, the U.S. Latina American woman right now, she is the acculturated U.S. Latina woman. She is the one that is second and third generation here. She has been raised here. She is the one that has been married here. She's multicultural married. She is raising multicultural children. So she has a fierce loyalty to the U.S., and she has a deep love and respect for her culture, for her Hispanic roots. But she does not see herself represented in any ads in the U.S. And it's not enough anymore to just throw up a Google Translate button and I called it a day. I got Google Translate on my website. Y'all should be happy. You know what I'm saying? Look, hola, buenos dias. Y'all should be happy. That's not enough. That is not enough anymore. I will give you a very clear example using myself as this. So I have worked with Disney for a long time. And they went and they contacted me because they wanted to do an influencer campaign, and they wanted to use myself and my family. And so we did with Latina Magazine, we did a video commercial talking about unforgettable dreams and unforgettable vacation memories. So the idea was that they wanted to use myself and my family and my children in a campaign for Disney. So we went to Disney and we had a vacation, and they did us in video. So we were the family. They were following us around with cameras, and we were doing the Disney vacation. But before the concept came up, I said, okay, you're gonna have a Disney vacation, but when U.S. Latino families, biracial, multicultural, take a vacation, they take it with their parents.
Right.
Because Latinos take it extended. They take mom and dad, they take, tío, tías, aunts and uncles. So I want to put my parents, and this was when they were still alive. They were like, okay. They were like, oh, parents, yes, okay, extended family. They got it because they want, why? Because, not just because I say it, because they understood the concept of, if we're really trying to engage the U.S. Latina, then this is what they do. They take it with their extended families. Okay, so let's do the extended family. So they added my parents when I said it. The funny thing was, too, that when we went there, they gave us clothes. I bought clothes, but then they also had clothes. Now, the clothes that they had, let's just say, was a little bit on the Caucasian side. Mm-hmm. Okay? So I said, all right. I said, Latinas like to wear bright colors, colorful and stuff. I said, the dull grays and stuff is not going to work. Right. I said, so let's brighten it up. They said, okay. Now, my hair, as you can see, is a bright red and stuff like that. I said, this is who I am, So when the colorist came, and they do your professional makeup and stuff, and I said, this is who I am, so this is how I vacation. So the first thing the makeup artist said was like, she told my mom, she goes, your daughter must be a big deal. And my mom goes, well, yes, of course she is. But she was like, moms, Latina moms. She's like, why do you say that? She goes, this is the first time Disney has ever allowed anybody to be in their print ads, be in Latina Magazine on their website, to be with red hair.
Right.
And she was like, really? She's like, but red hair exists in the world. She's like, no. She's like, they only allow black hair, blonde hair, and brown. That's it.
Wow.
But it's because Latina Magazine and Disney understood that if we are marketing to U.S. Hispanics, and U.S. Hispanics are bright and bold and colorful, then we going all the way with the sabor de los Latinos. We're going all the way with the Latino flavor. You cannot shush it down.
Right.
So if you are marketing to a specific subset of people, you've got to expand and you've got to embrace them as a whole. This is what Latinos are looking for. This is what, when we embrace the African Americans, then you embrace everything that they are. You embrace Juneteenth, you embrace Kwanzaa, you embrace everything. You're not gonna go and tell them, oh, no, we're not gonna do Kwanzaa today. You know,
Right.
we're not gonna tell them that, you know? So you can't tell a US Latina, oh, no, we're not doing arroz habichuela, we're not doing rice and beans. We're not gonna do, you know, your colorful hair and your bright clothing. That's what we've been telling the US Latinos all the time. Well, matter of fact, we've just been ignoring them.
Right.
And yet we're ignoring them, and yet they got a lot of billetes, dollars in their pockets.
Right.
You know, we want their money, but we do not want to embrace who they are.
So now, I hope everybody heard everything that Joscelyn said here, right? Because I love the first thing she had talked about was family and inclusion. So if we're going to be marketing to the Latina community, if we're going to be tapping into it, we want to make sure that we're showing ads and we're bringing inclusion. So I love that example where it's not just me and my family, if I'm married, husband, wife, children, going to Disney World. No, we're bringing grandma, abuela, and abuelo, right? That's what you had said, and we're bringing them to it. I also love how you talked about the color, right? And how bright colors and representing it, and to go all in. Don't be afraid to go all in. Be authentic was the third thing that I had heard, right? To go make sure that we're authentic with what we're talking about, with the branding on point, with the message behind it, to make sure that we're reaching our audience so we can establish that trust. Another thing that you had mentioned too, with this particular demographic, where you have most of these demographics, they're third generation.
Right.
So here we have a group of people who are Americans, proud to be the Americans that they are, but they're also very close to their culture because their grandparents are the first generation that came over. And so there's that tie to how they came to the US and where it came from. And so if I can cover all of those things, and those are the 3-4 points that you made there, that's going to allow me to establish trust within this segment to be able to reach out to more individuals.
Right.
This is fantastic. Let's see. Anything else you want to add?
Well, you know, one thing is that when you reach a U.S. Latina and you reach a U.S. Hispanic, you're not just reaching them, you're reaching their whole community. So they're very brand loyalty. Sometimes we have things in our kitchen because we know that mom and dad used to cook with it, you know? So, and there's things in the kitchen like, why do you have that in your kitchen? Oh, I don't know, because mom bought it. You know, you know, and like, do you use it? No, but she had it. Like, you know, but because we're brand loyalists. But we're also really big and advocating what we love. So when you have us, you have a customer for life. So we tell our friends, we tell our community, we convert our Caucasian neighbors into it as well, you know? So we are telling our community about it. So when you get us, you're not just getting me, you're getting my family, you're getting my community, you're getting our online community for influencers, you're getting an entire digital space behind us. And that's something that I don't think marketers understand, is that they think like, first of all, a lot of times, unfortunately, there's that bias of, the Latinos don't have money. Check the stats, baby, we do. You know, we've got quite a bit money. So that's one thing they have to get over. Then two, when you realize, oh, they do have the money and they're the ones that are shopping and they're the ones who are consistently shopping, actually, you might think we have a shopping addiction, but that's a whole nother thing.
I have a shopping addiction.
See, okay, all right.
And I'm not Latino.
Okay, and people think he's Latino and he's not, but you know, he gets by, you know, like, he gets a pass. But once you realize that they have the money and that we are shopping all the time, once you realize that, then you also realize that we are advocates of the things that we love, that we're advocates online, that we're advocates in our community, that we love to talk about it. And we also are the ones that are evangelizing for your brands.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
And we've been doing this for a long time before it was a thing online. We've been always, that's how it was in the beginning, actually. That's how we were word of mouth in los barrios, in the neighborhoods. We're the ones that were like, listen, this is great. You should try it. Because we're the ones that used to go into the stores, in our neighborhood stores, and be like, listen, you got to try this. I found this and that. And that's how we started word of mouth. That's how brands got actually started in those neighborhoods. So, Yeah.
I love it. So now as we're wrapping up here, just bringing it all together, right? So we talked about ethics. We talked about the baby boom generation as the largest generation where the wealth is. We talked about the Latina segment as the largest minority, and it's only growing where eventually they will be the majority in the United States with the way things are growing here. I'm an interracial man myself. I'm actually Black, Native American, and German. So growing up, hearing everything you're saying and bringing it all together here, I will say, as we're wrapping up, from a marketing standpoint, the most important thing is your own personal code of ethics, right? Integrity is everything.
Right.
There was a time when I was working at a company that did basement waterproofing, and the owners of the company, and I was a marketer, salesperson representing the company, and the owners of the company were such shysters that they literally had 2 different price lists. So imagine that you have a house, you want somebody to come in and you need your basement flooded and you need somebody to fix your basement, right? Because you have water in your basement. And they had 2 different price lists. One of, this is the lowest price we could do, and this is the price list that we show our customers. And it was twice the amount on the price list that they show their customers. And I literally worked there for like 3 months. And after around 90 days, I said, I can't do this anymore. Like I was selling at the lowest price, and they were like, Steve, you're not making any profits. You're not doing more than the base. Why not? Why not? I said, because I know that that's wrong to sell it there. I ended up quitting that company. And so I guess advice that I would give to you from an ethical standpoint, if you feel that something that you're representing does not align with you, don't be afraid to leave.
Right.
If you are the marketing firm and you're representing a company and the company is not fulfilling what they're supposed to, don't be afraid to part ways with that client. I will never forget when I first started my company, Hurricane Marketing Enterprises, in 2012. I had this customer who wanted to take care of the elderly. Every time I spoke to her, she was complaining about this elderly patient, this person, that. Can you believe this person, pooped himself, and I had to go over and do this. And I was like, but that's
the job.
That's the job.
Yeah.
That's what you signed up for. And so after I don't even think it was more than 3, maybe 4 weeks helping her grow her business, I said, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna let you out of your contract. You don't owe me a dime. Because, and this is early on in my career which I'm gonna talk next, I didn't have the money, right? I was struggling at this point. But I said, I'm gonna let you out of your contract. And as your consultant here, your marketing advisor, the last thing I'm gonna say to you is get out of this business. Because you should not be taking care of people if you're complaining about the very people that are contracting you for services. That's unethical, right? That is not the right thing. Integrity is everything. So I just wanted to share that. Anything in closing, Joscelyn, you want to say to our group here?
Yeah, I would definitely say to continue to do things ethically. Sometimes it seems like it's the hardest thing to do. It's easy to take the shortcuts, especially when your client might not know about it. It's easy to do that on social media, but always do the ethical thing. It is the most easiest thing to do, and I will repeat that because in marketing it might seem like the shortcut is the fastest way to get the money and all of that, but ethics is the way to go. Hard work is the way to go. In the long run, that is what will pay off for all of you. Your clients will appreciate it. You will get long-standing, beneficial, mutually beneficial relationships. Always do the ethics, always do the hard work, and your clients will come back to you each and every time.
I love it. Thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate you.